How's it going, everyone? KingBlackToof here. So whilst I'm playing a game of Gwent, it's a perfect time to play another game of Gwent by the side of it to wreck two people at once. Or maybe not, get wrecked 2 times at once. But in this video, we're going to talk about Drought and why I don't think it's the massively overpowered card that a lot of people expect it to be. Now, don't get me wrong, it is a very powerful card, but I've seen people quit as soon as you play Drought, and you know, I don't think it really warrants that response. I think a lot of people have sort of jumped on it and said, oh my god, it's so powerful, let's change it completely. And no doubt it is a powerful card, but I think it can be beaten. Now, there's the obvious bug where Aeromancy can play Drought. We know that is a bug that is confirmed by CD Projekt Red, because in the PTR prior to the one that you've seen, this one, Drought was a silver card, and although they've changed it to gold, it's sort of seemingly still got a sort of silver tag that Aeromancy and Ethne and Grave Hag and stuff like that can actually still use. Grave Hag, Water Hag. And so apart from that, that is clearly wrong, and I don't agree with that at all. I will quit if someone does that kind of bug, because it's just a bit too much. But Drought on its own, as like an individual gold card someone plays against you, is not an issue. And I'm going to explain what people perceive the problems with it being, and then how you beat it right now, and what the developers could possibly do if people still think at the end of this video that it is a massively overpowered card. So this is the culprit. It's a gold weather card, Drought, and it applies Drought to all rows on the opponent's side of the board when used. At the start of every turn, it will weaken all non-gold units on affected rows by 1 base strength. So every 1 turn, they will lose 1 base strength. So first of all, base strength feels disgusting. No one likes being wounded by base strength, and this is, you know, quite a lot of base strength. Now, if you actually think about it in the long game, you know, over 3 rounds and whatever, it really only affects two factions. Skellige, because they've got a lot of reses, and Northern Realms, because they've got a couple. Okay, you know, Shani and Nenike, those types of things. So other than those, it doesn't really affect them, but it does affect other factions in one particular round. And this brings me on to the first major issue that people have with Drought, which is it bypasses armor. So armor is there to protect your unit from being removed, while also not giving you massive strength. And Drought will just bypass it completely, allowing you to quickly kill units which are maybe weaker because they are relatively strong, but have some protection. Now, this clearly just like destroys certain archetypes, certain strategies, and it's very easy to do so. One classic example is the Clan Tursak Axeman. The Axeman is a 1 strength base strength unit, and it has 4 armor, but it can get some nice value later on. But the way it works is you can have an Axeman on the board. I play Drought, and it will tick straight away. You won't get a chance to clear it, and the Axeman will be dead. And it also stops certain other archetypes as well, so things like Harpies and the Harpy eggs. The eggs will get destroyed immediately because they're 1 base strength, and the way base strength works is if you reduce a unit to base strength 0, it won't just get destroyed, it'll get banished, which means their abilities don't trigger if they're Death Wish, which means the Harpy eggs won't get any value from spawning Harpies. So that is the first major issue, base strength and bypassing armor. The second one being that maybe it ticks without you being able to stop it in any way. Maybe that should be okay because it is a gold card, and if you change the priority of that, then maybe bronze weathers wouldn't be too good. But that's just an issue. So what could the developers do to change this if people really don't like it after this video? Well, you know, you could change it so it doesn't bypass armor. That's the quick fix, a lot of people have said. You could make it so it doesn't bypass buffs, so you need to buff a unit to protect it. Because if you think about it, Drought means, you know, they're feeling fatigued, but if they're buffed, then they're feeling pretty good about themselves. So maybe you could just take a little bit of buffing here and there, 2 points here and there, and you protect your units quite effectively. Maybe you could change the priority, but again, like I said, you might affect how bronze weather works if it ticks at the end of a turn rather than at the start. So that's people's feelings on Drought. We talked, you know, for quite some time on that. And now let's go on to why I don't think Drought is as overpowered as people think. I think there's a lot of knee-jerk reactions going on. Now, we're not talking about Drought, Aeromancy, Drought, you know, Ragnarok and all that, which is obviously common, but the Drought, Aeromancy, Drought should not be possible. So it's just about playing Drought once. Is it overpowered? I don't think so. And the reason for that is that you can counter it in many interesting, effective ways. And the first thing that I'm going to say about Drought is the way that it's used. Weather is no longer a swingy mechanic. You know, you don't set everything down to 1. So it's a gradual mechanic. It's a wounding mechanic. It takes time to get going. And because of that, weather, including drought, needs to be played relatively early in a round. Okay, so you're not going to have a whole board of units and then you're just going to get set to 1 and you can't clear it all. It means that you'll probably have maybe like 2 or 3 units possibly, and then they'll play drought to get maximum effective from it. And with the amount of agile units, this is generally the first point against drought is, I keep saying drought, I think. The first point against drought is that there are a lot of agile units now in the game. I'd say about 1/3 of your card pool is agile units. Now, we're going to start talking a little bit with some examples on how you use agility to really just counter drought. So obviously, Clear Sky only clears 1 row. So when they play drought, clear the row that you like the best, the one that is most important to you. So if you're playing something like a Queen's Guard deck here, the Queen's Guard are on melee only and they're very important to you. So obviously the melee is the row that you're going to clear. So you just need to clear 1 row and then stack upon it. So you'll have a variety of non-agile cards and agile cards, and you pick the one which is most important to you, thus being the Queen's Guard. So melee row is your row. It's the agile unit's job to complement the non-agile ones in this scenario. They play drought, you clear the row, and then you place all your agile units onto this particular row. And be conservative about what non-agile units you play in this particular round, if you can. So, you know, make sure you clear the row that's most important to you, because you won't be able to play it again. So cards like the Priestess, you're going to be considering what cards are worth trying to save, and what cards, you know, you need to start moving, and which cards you need to kind of protect. So the Priestess of Freya is a 1 strength unit. It will die very quickly to drought, but you know it's already doomed, so it will die, get banished anyway. And if you play it into drought, you get its ability, and you know it really didn't affect you, that drought, very much. And the only issue you can see is if you're trying to play a Priestess and decoy it, then you have been countered by the drought, really. But yeah, so you just need to consider which cards are very important to try and keep and save. And when we start getting into the 4s and 5s, a lot of your units start to become very agile, and as you can see there's quite a few of them, and it's their job, like I mentioned, to complement the non-agile ones, and you'll start to row stack on a particular row at this point. Okay, now this archetype is probably one of the worst archetypes to have drought played against, because you know there's a lot of even strength all over the board and it can hurt you quite a bit. So out of these two, which row is most important to clear? I would say it's the ranged row. And the reason for that is it'll take 5 turns to kill the Arrakis Behemoth, which is probably about half a hand, isn't it? So you can get a lot of consumes going off before these actually manage to die. And not only that, you can start using things like Ekimaras to move strength around. You know, if you've got Crones on the back row, which are very, very important, move them back out of that row and clear the middle row and move your Crones with Ekimaras and stuff like that. Likewise to the previous point, you'll have things which are buffed. So some of you might be playing very, very buffed heavy cards, okay? So things like the Ghoul, for example. Now this is a card which you won't be able to reuse in a later round because you're monsters, but it will have high strength. It could be, you know, something like 16 strength, it could be like 11 or something, which is decent. And so what's really cool about this and Drought is that the Drought will only ever do 4 damage to this, and then it's 0 base strength, but it will stay on the board as long as it's buffed. And when it is reset in base strength or, you know, removed, then it will get banished, but you don't care at that point. So you have to worry about Drought and Debomb, I suppose, but this is not a card that is really that important to clear because you'll get to keep most of its strength anyway. So it's not that important to try and clear this row. It's much more important for things which are just base strength alone. So that's the first strategy, which is when Drought's played against you, you clear 1 row that is very important to you, and then use your agile cards to move and shift everything back up into that row and stack on that row to try and protect yourself from Drought. Now, it also means that you should be considering what's worth trying to save and what's not, what you can move, what you can maybe Ekimara onto a different row. If something is doomed and you know it's going to die, I've been finding the Blood Curdling Roar card to be very, very useful. You wait till it gets quite low, and then you destroy it using this card, and you spawn a 12 strength bear, so getting decent value for that card, which is pretty much dead. And you get to choose where to put the bear, so you can put it on the row that is cleared. So, you know, just consider all these options when you're fighting against something like Drought. The second tactic is, obviously they play Drought really relatively early. What you can start doing is play some of your gold cards. So they may have ways to shackle him, of course, but you know, playing gold cards is a nice bump in strength that he probably wasn't expecting too early. And when you start looking at it, there are quite a lot of strong gold cards, which allow you to just kind of prolong this round a little bit while you're deciding whether he's going to keep pushing with Drought or whether he doesn't have the strength, because a lot of his hand is Drought related. Okay, so as you can see, a lot of high strength gold cards here. So that's an option. Start stalling and playing your gold cards a little bit more efficiently so he doesn't have really anything he can do. So our next tactic is one that is quite effective and valuable really, but it really only works on certain archetypes, certain decks. And I built a Wild Hunt Frost Weather deck, and I use this guy on the melee row, and he's resistant to biting frost. You'd use this guy who's agile, who's also resistant to biting frost, and we'll use a Wild Hunt Hound, which is also agile and resistant to biting frost. So you can start seeing how there's a lot of agile units, and they're all resistant to biting frost. So melee, he's like not agile, so melee would be the one that I would clear if I could, and we'd start stacking on one particular row using the first strategy here. But if you can't clear it, or maybe he plays another weather that's really harsh like Skellige Storm after you've cleared it, then what you can do is stack up on that melee row like we said, and then use something like the Wild Hunt Hound to summon a biting frost and place it on your own melee row. This will overwrite the Drought or Ragnarok or whatever, and all your units are resistant to it. So, or most of your units are resistant to it, so they won't get affected. So you'll weather your own row to overwrite his, and your weather is null and void by their resistance to it, which is really, really good. So to coincide with that, other factions have different ways that they can avoid Drought. Square Tau, for example, have Zoltan here, which allows you to move 3 units to this row on their side, and if they're allies, strengthen them by 2. So, you know, you can pull units which are quite nice and strong out of Drought and put them onto a cleared row. They also have the leader card Ethne, which allows you to play a special card from your graveyard, and they've got other cards which do a good job at playing special cards. So if you played one Clear Skies, then you can play more at ease with Square Tau, which is really, really nice. Now, the extra little last tip that I've got is that buffing obviously is protected when they play Drought. Your units won't actually go below base strength, so if you have a 12 strength buff on a 3 strength unit, it will do 3 ticks to that unit and then that unit will be safe. It will die when it goes to the graveyard, but if you're playing a faction that doesn't really involve heavy resurrections, it's not really an issue. You do have to be careful about things like mushrooms and Dimeritium Bomb and stuff, but it is a strategy that you can use a lot of ambassadors. And, you know, if you target a couple of units and they're really high in strength, then Drought is not really going to be that effective to you. In fact, Drought is less effective the less units you have. Okay, so if you have one unit which is really high in strength, Drought is only doing 1 damage per turn, and it can be a lot harder to remove. Obviously, you have to be worried about Scorch and stuff, but, you know, just to be aware that buffing, using potions and boosting your allies with ambassadors and stuff is a way to kind of subvert some of the damage that Drought will do against you. So that's it for the explanation on why Drought is not so effective. I'll put some little clips at the end of this video to try and demonstrate how this is, but you know, I think a lot of people think it is overpowered. Now, I'm not saying it's not a strong card, it is very strong. Now, whether the CD Projekt Red will change it, they may make it hit armor. I think people will be happier, but I think it is an annoying card, definitely. I wouldn't suggest that it's not an annoying card. It makes you row stack, which is very vulnerable to lacerates and manticore venoms, and you know, Marigold's Hailstorm and stuff like that. So it's not like it's without its flaws. It makes you play a certain way when you see it, because there are not enough clear sky options at the minute. But it's no way unbeatable. It is a card which is powerful, but you can beat it by using the given tactics that I've stated. So thanks for watching. Take care, and hopefully, you know, let me know if you've changed your mind or whether you think I'm talking shit. Absolutely fine if you think so. I just don't think it's as powerful as everyone is thinking it is, although it is still quite powerful. Cheers, guys.
Yield and save me some time.
I mean, he beat my previous deck that I made, but that was, I think, because of the deck counter.
Why are you following?
He had loads and loads of armor, and I was trying to wound him. And when he lost his armor, he got buffed, so it wasn't a good thing to do.
No one can hide from me.
Alright, the problem with this is that none of them are going to actually get wounded, which is annoying.
Well, what is it? Burak.
You get to choose with that as well, which is amazing.
May Mordron Freya watch us and keep us.
Lafatan! Do not test my patience.
There'll be nothing to pick up when I'm done with you.
Whoa, this is going to be fucking harsh. Real harsh.
It's time.
Oh, that's nice. Not nice. Let's do that to me. Always at the top of the deck, ladies and gentlemen. Always.
Who do I spy?
Who do I spy? That's a 5, right? Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use this guy to remove 2 strength, 2 armor. Going to be 9, 18. So he's going to gain 18 strength. And these are going to go up by 12. I've already won. I've already won, and they're going to go up by 12 each. And that's going to go up as well by another 2. Godlike. And another 3, 4. Nice one, Bob. I like it.
Dead as a creaser.
Got business for me?
We know the mysteries of time and space, all of them.
The storm is coming. Let's enjoy the weather while we still can.
Coexistence, no such thing.
What? Okay.